Before we get started, it's very important to know that if you can speak 3 foreign languages, you are trilingual. If you can speak 2 languages, you are bilingual. And if you can only speak 1 language, you're American. Okay, so I apologize that I'm not doing the presentation in Portuguese today. I hope my English is good enough that you guys will understand. I think all of you speak very good English from what I hear so far. If there's any questions or if anything I say is unclear, please let me know. I generally speak very loud because I have hearing problems. So if I'm shouting too loud, please also let me know. So anyway, I'm very excited to be here today. My name is Jon Upton. I manage our team of sales engineers. We are generally the technical resources within the organization that support the sales cycle. We do product demonstrations. We have discussions about more technical side of the solution. So I'm very excited to be here today and to walk you through a live demonstration of Salesforce. Bruno said yes. We said, hey, we have 30 minutes. And I said, well, what should we do? He said, everything. And I said, oh, God. So well, obviously, we can't show everything. So I've tried to put together a little scenario that will give you a flavor of what Salesforce is like. So what I want to try and do is I'm going to try and do a day in the life of an organization. I'm going to be showing you an example from a company called Cirrus. They do networking and virtual conferencing solutions. But very important is I know that many of you in the room are from different industries, possibly from healthcare, also from public sector. So as I go through sort of the presentation, I'm going to try and show or elaborate on how the examples that we're showing could relate to other industries as well, so that you get a feeling for that. But also try and think of that as you see the solution, how it might work in your specific industry as well. So what we're going to do is we are the organization Cirrus, and what we're doing is we are using Salesforce to essentially manage a sales opportunity to earn some money from a media company called Green Dot Media. Okay? So the objective is basically to earn some sales, some revenue from this particular organization. I'm going to walk you through 4 very brief scenarios. The first one is, I apologize, I have a couple of German names left over from my German presentation I did on Thursday, who is a sales representative. He's going to be managing his opportunity, looking at his opportunity in terms of pipeline. He's going to be collaborating with colleagues. We're going to show how that works through Chatter. He's going to be sending an offer to his customer directly from within Salesforce, and then updating his opportunity in a mobile capacity. So I'll try and be showing you how that works on an iPad. Stephanie Muller, his boss, is going to be taking a look at the current pipeline status, notifying the team with information through dashboards, and collaborating with marketing based on generating a new marketing campaign based on what she sees on her dashboards from the iPad. So she's on the road. And then the third scenario is Laura Becker, who's a systems analyst with Green Dot, who's experiencing an issue with one of the routers. So she's going to go to the self-service site, log a case, try and find information to solve her problem. And then the last part is Jan, who's the customer service representative. We're going to be looking at that from the perspective of the customer service side of the house within the organization about how they're going to help the customer resolve that problem. So it might seem like a lot. I promise you we'll go through it very quickly. If there are any questions at any time, please raise your hand and let me know. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and get started. So she'll see, first of all, is that I'm logged in. I'm not logged in yet, but this is the login screen through Google Chrome. So obviously you can launch Salesforce through whatever browser you want, whether it's Firefox, Internet Explorer, Google Chrome, Safari. I've cheated and already set up my username and password here so that I'm ready to go. And the first thing that I'm presented with when I log in as the sales representative is the home screen. So let me familiarize you with the way that the home screen is developed, the way that it looks. Essentially along the top, you will see the key areas of functionality that you use. This is the tabs along the top. So I've switched this over to Portuguese so that some of this relates to you. I don't know what any of the Portuguese words mean, so I'm flying blind a little bit here. So if I click on the wrong thing, let me know, but I think we're going to do okay. So this gives you quick access to all of the key information that you need, opportunities, contacts, whether that's individuals or customers or citizen records or patients, whatever they might be. Those are the key tabs that you access. And then over on the left, you have the ability to access recent items that you've seen, so you kind of have a breadcrumb trail, so you can go back and access those items very quickly. You can also create new objects. So in just 1 or 2 clicks from the drop-down, I can create new tasks, new leads, new opportunities, new contacts. From directly within the home screen, I also have access to a small part of my personal dashboard. So this shows me, for example, my pipeline, shows me my quota attainment, how far along am I in terms of making my number for the year, and then also my key opportunities over here. I can then access this information directly by drilling into this dashboard. And then down below, I also have a summary of all of the key tasks that I have, what I have to do, what I've already done. These are ones that may be overdue, or things I think I have to do, ones that my boss has given me to do. And then I have also the calendar down below, which shows me the appointments that I have for today. So the tasks and the calendars can also be integrated either with Outlook, with Lotus Notes, or with Gmail, so that you can actually have these tasks showing up integrated as part of your third-party application as well. So what I wanted to do now is I want to take a look at, we mentioned, Bruno mentioned the idea of collaboration. And one of the key parts about Salesforce that I want to introduce to you is the idea of what we call Chatter. Chatter is a collaboration tool, okay? It's not intended to be a messenger tool or a Facebook. The idea is that you have employees within your organization collaborating internally, but possibly also with customers outside of the organization. So how does this take place? By the way, is the English okay with everybody so far? Should I speak louder? No. So in order to access Chatter, I'm going to come over and click on the Chatter tab, and immediately I'm presented in the center of the screen with what we call a feed. This is the central feed of all the information that comes through the Chatter collaboration platform. So you're thinking, okay, so what is all of this stuff? Well, if some of you are familiar with some of the social networking, maybe Facebook, you might look quite familiar in the sense that you're familiar with the idea of a feed. But instead of the stuff that you're sharing with your friends, whether it's photos of your cat or your dog or whatever it is, you're now sharing work-related information with one another, okay? So for example, I'll just give you a couple of examples to give you some context. As I scroll down, I can see that an automatic Chatter post has been sent. It's telling me that on a specific dashboard, we have crossed a certain threshold. So we have obtained a certain part of our quota, or a new deal has closed, and that has posted an automatic feed, an automatic post to the Chatter feed itself. If I scroll down a little bit further, I can see, for example, that a quote for a customer for pricing has been automatically posted to the Chatter feed. And then I can actually approve the quote directly from the Chatter feed as well. If I scroll down a little bit further, I can see an example of a Chatter group. So this is the idea that the entire organization, there is a Chatter group for all of the members of an organization. So in order to break down some of the boundaries within inside a company, using Chatter, I can essentially post information. So rather than sending out mass emails to individuals, I can post that information directly to Chatter. Now the benefit of this is, of course, that people can start to collaborate around this post. People can like the post. You can say, I like it. You can comment on the post. And what we do is you essentially, you flatten the entire hierarchy of your organization by allowing individuals to collaborate with one another, okay? To show an additional example of how that can happen, if I scroll down one last example, I, as the salesperson here, am working on a specific opportunity. So if I'm working, for example, for the Red Match Media organization, we have a Chatter group that is created, which is the sales team of 5 or 6 people who are collaborating around this opportunity. And I, as the salesperson, have uploaded the latest pricing document. So instead of emailing this out to people and having one-on-one conversations, we can now collaborate around the pricing for this deal, and everybody can provide their feedback. My manager can provide feedback, my colleagues can provide feedback, and so on and so forth. And you can see that the feed builds. So you essentially have that transparent, collaborative nature. Also here you have a group, but this is a group that is involving external people from the customer. So now what's happened is perhaps we've either closed the deal or we're now further along in the deal, and I can bring individuals in and collaborate using Chatter. So essentially they get an email invitation to join Chatter, and now I'm collaborating with this specific individual, and you can see they're flagged with orange, means they are an external person. They're outside of our company, or our organization, but they are working together with us in Chatter. Okay? And then one additional example I'll show you later is that Chatter is embedded in every object that we see throughout the organization, whether it's opportunities or citizens or patients or contacts or accounts. Chatter is connected with every organization, and I'll show you an example of that in a little bit later. One of the examples that I wanted to show also, as I can very quickly filter, because there's an enormous amount of information in Chatter, I can filter the postings that are specific to me, for example. I can also look for specific people. I can subscribe to specific groups. What I can also do is filter very quickly based on specific objects within, for example, the system. And in this case, I see that there's a post that has been sent to me by my boss. And she says, "Hello, Matthias, I spoke with Mr. Bowerman today, and it looks like we might have a new opportunity with him. Can you please get in touch with him as soon as possible?" So, of course, the first thing I do is from my boss. So I say, like, is that good? Is that good? Like? Right? So I like it. Yes, so I like it. And then, of course, I see that what has happened, because the post has been made transparent and other people can see it, it's not an email. What happens is my colleague Dirk says, "Hey, Matthias, I saw this post from Stephanie and wanted to let you know that I used to work with Johan at Altec Networks in my previous life. So I know him very well. Let me know if you want me to introduce you." So what you see is an example where the collaborative nature of Chatter starts to introduce other people into the conversation, where this wouldn't take place if it were just an email conversation. So one of the benefits of having that being transparent. So what I want to do now is, I want to, instead of having to go now and search and find Johan's record, I can actually link. The Chatter collaborative platform is integrated to the objects themselves. So basically what I can do is simply click directly on the contact record, and it now navigates me away from the Chatter feed into the actual contact record itself. So here you see on Bowerman, this is the individual, the person, whether it's the contact, the citizen, the patient, whoever it might be. And this is where I have essentially my 360-degree view of this individual. But you aren't lost from the idea that Chatter is connected. What you can do is you can at any time view the Chatter feed, which is linked directly to the object itself. So throughout the entire application, the Chatter feed is always embedded with that specific object. So you always have access to that collaborative side of the object. So now I'm interested in taking a look, and I want to get to know a little bit more about this individual, because potentially he's somebody that we're going to be talking to or positioning a product to. And the first thing I do, I'm a little bit interested to know more about this guy. So obviously what's a great tool nowadays is to find out what is this person's presence in social media, right? So I can go, instead of having to go out and look individually, I essentially have at the top of my screen access to a social profile. I can pull up this individual's record directly and see what information has he publicly put out on Twitter, on Facebook, on why is this important? Because if I'm going to go and talk to this individual, I might be good to know and say, well, that's interesting. I see that you are, and you see that you're now the vice president of IT. That's good to know. But I can see that you also like hiking. I like hiking too. Why don't we go hiking together? So what you've got is you've now got a connection, which you didn't even know, and that's something that you can introduce to your customer, right away. So the idea is you are arming yourself as a salesperson or as an individual with the information about this organization, about this person, so that you're prepared when you're getting ready for this specific meeting. So as I take a look quickly here, I can review this 360-degree view of the individual. I can hide the navigation bar on the left to give myself a little bit more real estate. And then as I navigate down, I can see up at the top that I have the key data up here about this individual, the company. I can see the address information, and I can see all down here, basically all of the interaction history that we have with this specific individual. What I'm interested in now knowing is, okay, that's good, I found out my information about this individual, but I also want to get some information about the organization for which he works, because essentially we're going to be positioning this product or our solution to the company. So directly from within the individual record, I can drill into what we call the account record or the organization. this organization could be an insurance company, it could be a hospital, it could be, in this case, a media company. The idea is it is an organization, okay? And in the same way that I've seen the information about an individual, I now have a 360-degree view of this organization. So Green Dot Media is the company to which we are selling, and now I can see all the information. In the same way that I saw with an individual, I have access to the social media information about this organization. I can go and see what is their presence on Facebook, on Twitter, on whatever social media platform you choose. So as I take a look down, obviously as we take a look at an account, we have quite a bit of information, so I can see you'll see that the way the interface has been designed is consistent throughout the application. So you always have this sort of consistent look and feel that the information is displayed to you in sort of one single view. You can either scroll down to see all of that specific information. So here I have all of the individual contacts. For example, if I'm going to position to an organization, I want to know who are the people that we're talking to and what is their role in the organization. I can see all of the specific opportunities that we have open with this organization and their value. I can also see all the activity history that we have with this account. And then very important is down I see at the bottom, what open cases do we have? Okay, so cases is obviously not only relevant in the private sector where you have organizations that you're selling who might have technical issues, but for example in the public sector where you have citizens who are logging cases about problems in the street, or if you have specific healthcare cases. I mean, the idea of a case is that it could be pan-industry essentially. But the idea here is I have access to all of this information from this 360-degree view. I can also, instead of having to scroll up and down, I can also hover over the individual items at the top of the screen, which allow me quick access to all of those information. So I don't have to scroll all the way up and down if I wish. So I can see that information very quickly. And once again, I can also see that I have access to the chatter feed for this specific opportunity embedded within the actual account view itself. So essentially what I've done here is I've met with the customer, and I realized that the meeting went very well. The customer had a couple of technical questions about the routers that were positioned. So what I want to do is I want to come back and I want to say, okay, well, I need to ask a question to a specific individual. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to @mention within the chatter feed the guy who's responsible for the Delta product, Timo Goods, and I'm going to say, Timo, need the latest spec for the Delta routers for customer. Can you help? And I'm going to post this. And what this has done now is I've now made a cry for help out to my colleague Timo, who is going to be able to help me out. The benefit is that it's not only going to Timo, it's going to everybody who follows Timo. So now what will happen is everybody who sees this post may say, you know what, I actually have the information, I can send it to Team. Timo's out on a meeting today. And the idea behind that is instead of once again, the individual one-to-one email, this information is now being made transparent and everybody can see it. In addition, instead of being a lost email in an outbox, it's also now becomes a permanent part of this account record. So anybody who comes back in and views the chatter feed for this account record will always have that information. And then when Timo responds back, I'll have that information as part of the chatter record for that account. So you never lose that interaction history. So that's very good. Customer was happy. They said, okay, I like the information. What I want to do now is I want to take a look at the specific opportunity. So what we've done now is we've taken a look at the individual, we've taken a look at the account, and now we've created an actual, what we call a sales opportunity. We've identified products that we want to sell, we're putting a dollar value or a euro value next to those specific products, and I can drill into that specific opportunity. And I can see here in the same way that we've seen earlier, consistent look and feel, I can see the information about the opportunity up above, the amount, I can see what stage we're at, we're at 35%, and all the relevant information. I can see the products, ignore the Germany part. I can also see, for example, any other interaction history or any other activities that have taken place supporting this opportunity. So, the customer was very happy with the information we provided. He said, great, but of course he's going to ask how much it's going to cost. So, what we want to do is we want to very quickly from within Salesforce send out a quote to the customer. This is the new quote button, right? I'm going to make sure that I'm clicking. So what I can do is from directly, I'm not going to enter in a tremendous amount of information. The pricing, because the products are already associated to the opportunity, the pricing amount is already there. I can quickly, I'm just simply going to enter a new quote. I'm not going to enter a lot of information. I'm going to save this. It's created my new quote in one click. And I can now actually create a branded PDF quote that I can email to the customer. If I really use email, you can also chatter it if you like. But in this case, it's actually giving me a branded quote of the products that I'm bidding. I can take a look at it. I can review it. And then what I can do is I can directly email the customer. And as we mentioned, we were talking with Johan earlier. So I'm going to grab Johan. I'm going to say, quote as discussed. Johan doesn't talk too much, so basically I don't have to write a lot. I can just send this off. And what it will do is it will now is created the quote. It has automatically generated an email, which has gone out to Johan. And what I also have is I now have this quote as a permanent part of the record down below. So I can see the quote is actually attached here. Also, if I go back and take a look at the contact record for Johan, I will see that down below, the email, the quote as discussed, has now become a permanent part of the activity record for him. So I never lose that email. I don't have to go into Outlook and see whether the email is there. I now have it automatically associated as an activity as part of that activity history for that specific customer. So I don't lose that. I don't lose that. So what I'd like to do very quickly then, now I've sent out my quote. And what I'm going to do is I'm not going to head out to a customer, another customer meeting. But what I can very quickly do is I can take a look at my dashboard, okay? And I can see, if I can select from the specific dashboard, I have a number of different dashboards that I can see. Obviously, being a sales representative, I would actually only see my specific dashboard. I wouldn't see all of the dashboards. But in this case, I'm going to come in and I'm going to re-review. Now that my pipeline has been updated, I can see I have access to a specific dashboard. It gives me my pipeline, my quota attainment, the leaderboard where I stand relative to all of my other colleagues, daily sales, my opportunities, and so forth. So I can take a look at any time in this dashboard and see it in real time, what is the current status. And I'll show you an example later of how this would happen for the manager as well. But what I'd like to do now is I'd like to switch over and show you an example now as a salesperson who's leaving the office. I'm going out on the road, but I'd like to be able to continue doing some business being mobile. So I'm going to switch over. Plug in my iPad. This will automatically come up on the screen. So I'm connected. I can't walk very far because, like Einstein said, the great thing about technology is you still have a tape consider. So basically what I can do now is I want to show you the new platform that we have for working mobile, which is called Touch. Touch is essentially an HTML5 based solution, which means it can run on any platform. So earlier our mobile solution was basically designed natively for either iPads or for Android. And now with Touch, the idea of being HTML5 is it's platform independent, so I can use it on whatever device I like. So basically by simply opening up, in this case I simply open up Safari browser and I'm accessing Salesforce. But what you will see is I have now been presented with a user interface that is something that is more familiar with, for example, an iPad interface. So instead of having the larger screen that you saw earlier with lots of information and having to kind of navigate through a website through the Safari browser, I'm presented with an interface that has specifically been designed for a mobile device. Okay? So what you can see is immediately, I can see the chatter feed that I saw earlier. So I have access to the chatter feed. I can scroll up and down. I can decide whether I want to see, again, the postings that have been addressed to me, or I can see the ones that, whether I can take a look at the groups that I belong to or groups that I want to add. So I can see access all of the chatter information that I saw earlier. What I can also do is if I click up at the top, I can open up also the elements that I have available to me in a mobile capacity. So for example, I can take a look at the specific tasks that I have. All the tasks, the recently viewed tasks, are cached on the left-hand side. So I can quickly access any of those tasks that I have. In this case, what I'm going to do is I can see I have contacts. I have contacts, I think, are accounts, right? And then opportunities. So if I click on the opportunities tab, I will see that I now have access to the opportunities that I've viewed recently, and you'll see that the green dot media delta routers was the opportunity that we just viewed, okay? But the way that it's been designed now is that if I want to, for example, view the opportunity, I can see that, I can scroll up and down, but I can also click on the green dot media below, and that will open up a new tab on the right-hand side. So you'll see the ribbons come up. So it's showing me that the screen kind of builds from the right. Okay? And what happens is it gives you an easy way of knowing that you've got additional information sort of sitting on top. It's been designed specifically so that you don't get lost working on an iPad, which is a little bit of a different user experience than working on a traditional website. Then I can even click, for example, once more on Matthias Grieser, and I can navigate into the person record. And then once the information has been displayed and I found what I needed, I can swipe the information away, sort of in a traditional, like you would expect on an app for an iPad. I can swipe, I can do all the things that I'm used to doing, okay? What I can actually do as well is not just view the information, but in this case, since the opportunity is done well, the customer's happy, I can actually edit the opportunity here while I'm mobile, and I'm actually going to update the stage of the opportunity to negotiation to 90%. Samuel's going to get very excited now. So, and I can actually save that opportunity while I'm on mobile, and it's actually updated now to 90%. So now my pipeline is reflected real time, and I'm on my mobile device, so I'm able to work while I'm on the road. And then what you also have is you actually have search capability up at the top as well, which allows me to essentially go in and provides a box to search through Salesforce as well. So what I wanted to show is the idea that we've taken now, you have a mobile interface that's specifically been designed not only for iPad, but for any platform. And again, the benefit of being an HTML5 solution is that you can deploy it on any platform. Okay. So now I'd like to switch roles and go into sort of the second part, which was talking about Stephanie Mueller, the account executive, the sales manager. And I want to quickly have a look at what Stephanie's looking at from her dashboards. So on the upper left-hand corner, you'll see the dashboards. This is what we call Salesforce mobile dashboards. So this is something, so now I'm Stephanie Mueller, I'm the VP of Sales, I'm on the road all the time. I'm not sitting in the office, I'm in airports, I'm wherever. And what I want to do is I want to have access to my dashboards, because I'm dashboard crazy, I love to know what the current status is of all the opportunities we're working on. So I can basically scroll through the various dashboards that I have access to in Salesforce. And in this specific one, the Sales Executive Dashboard, this is what I want to take a look at. So if I drill into the dashboard, it presents me with a nice sort of picture of all the components that I have. What I can do for any of these specific components, I can click on it and I can highlight specific areas. I can take a look, for example, here with the sales pipeline. I can zoom into the specific information. So in this case, product by pipeline, pipeline by product family. I can drill into this component. I can then double click on specific areas of the chart that take me into the actual transactional data behind the scenes. So I can get right down into what it is that's behind those charts. So for example, I can take a look at my closed business year to date, this gauge chart down here. If I double click into a specific section, I can see the opportunities that make up this specific chart. But I can see, for example, that the amount of the opportunities is missing, which I want to see. So in the upper right-hand corner, I can come in and actually add the fields that I want to see on the mobile view. I think valor is amount, right? We'll see. There we go. All right. And in this case, you know what? It's going by lowest to highest. Of course, I want to see the big ones. So I can simply resort my chart, and I now can see them by lowest to highest. And if I want, I can also come in and arrange the fields so I can actually move the specific fields around and change the value to move it to a different side. So essentially what I can do is I can not only see the dashboards, but I can actually drill into the transactional data, see the information, and then modify the specific view directly from the mobile dashboards platform. Also, of course, right, let's not forget that sometimes I see information and I want to take action on something. I see, for example, that maybe our pipeline is not looking particularly strong. So I have a couple of options. I can drill into my pipeline, I can take a look and see what is the information behind the pipeline. It's not looking very good. So of course, the first option is I can click on the button in the upper right-hand corner and I can email a snapshot of this pipeline to someone and say, okay, so John, this is the situation with pipeline not looking so good. But email is very old school, right? So of course, we're going to chatter, right? So we don't need to email. What we'll do is if we go back to our dashboard, I can actually open up Chatter, which is now embedded in this specific app. I can create a new Chatter feed, and I can mention my colleague Dirk, who is the Director of Marketing. And I'm going to say, Dirk, pipeline for Portugal North is looking low. Can you please set up a new campaign with the following pricing? And I have my new pricing on a cocktail napkin from the restaurant where I'm sitting having lunch. So I basically say, this is the pricing that I want, and I don't have time to do this, so basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to photograph this new pricing. I'm going to capture that, and I'm going to say, pricing. And I'm going to share that as part of the Chatter feed. So that has now been published to the Director of Marketing through Chatter, not only with just the information, but it's also got a picture. I can do that also all real time. And it's now been shared with everybody who's following the Director of Marketing, so everybody can see that we need to do that. So the troops can rally around and make the marketing campaign actually happen. And then what can happen is, obviously, as the next step is the Director of Marketing can actually directly within the Chatter feed mention me in the marketing campaign because Chatter is fully enabled with the marketing campaign itself. So you never lose that connection of the various objects. So just to give you an example of how that would work from the dashboards. So I'm going to switch back. And we've just got a couple more minutes for the last two steps. So if I come back, what I would like to show is that if I go back to Chatter, and I go back into Stephanie Muller, I will see that here's the Chatter post that we just did. So it's been posted to Dirk, he sees the post, and the photo of the campaign is there. Or the photo of the actual pricing, recommended pricing is there. So the next section I wanted to show is I want to give you just a very brief example of, let's say for example now I'm part of the customer, we've closed the deal, and the customer is very happy, but they've run into a bit of a technical problem. So the question that I have is how can I go in, for example, as a customer and potentially log a case or a question? So what I want to show you is from a completely different view, the idea of self-service. So what is the value to organizations of self-service? Well, obviously traditional methods of calling up and asking questions on call centers is good. It's been the way we've done it in the past, and it's obviously a very expensive way of doing business. And people nowadays don't want to sit on telephones, right? They want to go onto Google and type in, here's my problem, and bang, the solution comes up, right? That's what I do, right? So this is the idea of what we call call deflection, essentially. It's saying instead of having people wait in call centers, have the customers help themselves. People like to help themselves. Not only do they like it, it's also cheaper generally for you as a business. So what we essentially have also as part of our solution is a customer self-service. The idea of a portal where customers can go and they can either search, for example, they can view, first of all, the products that they have registered. This could also be in the case of a public sector. This would be a situation where you might have the cases that I have logged with a specific agency or claims that I have in for either insurance or healthcare. And then what you have down here is you can view all of my recent cases that I've logged. What I can do as a customer is come in, I can search, for example, for specific articles. In this case, I had a question about the iPhone app. And if I enter in specific search words, I will find articles that come back with my search results. I can also post out to a larger community a question that I have, and you can essentially crowdsource that problem so that people within the community are helping to find that problem. Many of you have seen that maybe with Apple or with certain technical products where people are actually online helping to solve problems. What I can also do is crowdsource some of my R&D or research and development by allowing customers to provide ideas about how we can improve business. So this is what Starbucks has done with us. They put out an ideas portal and said, Starbucks customers, come to us and tell us what you love about Starbucks, but what you also want to change. What could we do better? In this specific case, I'll take a look at the case from Laura Becker, the one that was created, and you will see that if this were coming in as a telephone call, which in this case I'm kind of simulating that maybe the customer is calling, I'll see the customer information at the top of the screen. And that is persistent, that stays with me throughout the interaction with the customer so that I don't lose that important information. I know what customer they're calling from, I know their account information, I know whether they're a platinum or a gold or a silver customer. I can hide the information by clicking on the bar if I want, if it's taking up too much real estate, and I can expose it again if I like. The idea is if I create a new case or an existing case is pushed to me, the recommended solutions, which I think is hard to go to Jared, I'm sorry for my horrible pronunciation, but the idea is that based on the subject here of the case that comes in, it automatically proposes solutions based on previous experience and the highest ranked answers that have solved most of the cases in the past. So you're more likely to get the right answer to your case. Then what you can do is, if it's a new case or an existing case, I can essentially click on the box and I can add this specific case, this specific answer to that case, and it becomes a permanent part of that case record so that I never lose that history. If somebody says, well, what solution did you propose to this customer and why, I can always go back and see. So it becomes a permanent part of that record. Okay? And they also will get an email confirmation when the case is actually resolved. So that was just a very brief introduction into the idea of the Service Cloud. Obviously, as I mentioned, this would be integrated with your computer telephony integration, so you can have this working in your call center. Sometimes it can be also Tier 1, Tier 2 support, where maybe the caseworker isn't actually on the phone, but they're processing cases sort of in the back office. Regardless of that, the idea is the platform is the same. And what we mentioned earlier is you're not talking about two separate applications. So essentially the Service Cloud, these are the cases that you saw when we were looking at the sales opportunity on the first side. So you don't lose that perspective. Why is that important? If you're going to sell to a customer tomorrow and they have 3 outstanding cases that are all critical, chances are they aren't going to buy anything from you until those cases are fixed, right? They're going to say, look, I love that you're new products, but how about you fix these first before I buy additional stuff from you, right? So that's good to know. And then obviously the last thing to just finish up on is we'll take a quick look back again at the dashboards. And I can see that from the customer service perspective, we also have the ability to take a look at the call center, essentially the support executive dashboard. So these are for anybody in the service side of the house. Sorry, my mouse keeps clicking my whole screen. I can see here, for example, total critical open cases, my customer satisfaction percent, self-service deflection rate. How many of our customers who are actually going to the self-service channel rather than picking up the phone, right? So this is a great KPI for us to know. This will also help us understand how much money are we saving by using this specific channel. What is our average case handling time? How long is it taking? And by agent, how are the agents actually performing in handling the cases? And then obviously our most used support channels, right? So this can help us again also potentially through marketing. And then the idea here is you've got an idea where you can also leverage, you can turn your cost center, which is your support organization, into a profit center. You've got customers calling you or contacting you, so now I can potentially use this opportunity, if I resolve the case and they're happy, to upsell or cross-sell additional products, okay? So actually, that is where I'm going to conclude at this point. I hope I didn't run too far over. Are we okay for time? Yeah? Okay. All right. Anyway, so I hope that gave you a quick insight into some of the key functionality behind Salesforce. And at this point, I'll pass back to Bruno. I think we're going to do some Q&A, although I think I may have totally thrown the time off the rest of the day.